My daughter-in-law forgot her cell phone in my house. It rang, and on the screen appeared a photo of my husband, who had died 5 years ago. When I opened the message, my heart almost stopped. Don't forget to subscribe to Granny's Voice and comment where you're watching from. The afternoon sun came through my kitchen window, making bright spots on the floor where I was baking cookies. 5 years had gone by since Robert's funeral, but I still talked to his picture every morning like he could hear me. Some things never change. At 73, I had learned that missing someone doesn't go away. Just becomes part of who you are. I was mixing chocolate chips into the cookie dough, my hands covered in flour, when I heard the buzzing sound. At first, I thought it was my old refrigerator acting up again. It makes funny noises sometimes, especially on hot days here in our small Texas town. But the buzzing came again, louder this time, more urgent. A phone was ringing somewhere in my living room. "Hello," I called out, wiping my hands on my floured apron. Did somebody leave something behind? Nobody answered back. My daughter-in-law, Jennifer, had just left about 30 minutes ago after her weekly visit. She came every Thursday afternoon, supposedly to make sure I was doing okay, but I always felt like she was checking up on me rather than checking in on me. Jennifer was the kind of woman who always looked perfect. Her hair was always neat, her clothes always matched, and she never seemed to have a bad day. The phone buzzed again, making that rattling sound against something hard. I walked into my living room, my old knees making cracking sounds. The phone was sitting on my coffee table, its screen glowing bright. My breath stopped in my throat. Robert's face was smiling at me from that screen. But this wasn't a picture I had ever seen before. This was different. Robert was wearing a blue sweater I didn't remember buying him. He was standing somewhere with palm trees behind him. His smile was bigger and happier than I'd seen in the last 10 years of our marriage. The picture was part of a new text message. My hand shook as I picked up the phone. I knew I shouldn't look. I understood that people's phones are private. Privacy is important. That's what everyone says. But that was my husband's face. My dead husband looking younger and happier than I remembered him being. The message showed just enough words for me to read. Thursday again, same place. I can't wait to see you. Every hour feels like a day. The room felt like it was spinning. I grabbed the back of my couch to steady myself, still holding Jennifer's phone in my other hand. The words didn't make sense to me. Thursday, same place, counting hours. This message wasn't old. The time at the top said 2:34 p.m. just a few minutes ago. Someone was sending messages to Jennifer. Someone was using Robert's picture. Someone who met with her on Thursdays. My brain tried to think of reasons why this could be happening. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone was playing a mean trick. But who would use Robert's picture? And why? I should put this phone down right now. I should call Jennifer and tell her she forgot it. I should let her come back and get it. But instead I unlocked the screen. Jennifer never worried about people getting into her phone. I had watched her type in her password so many times when she showed me pictures of my grandson, little Bobby. 4 numbers. 0922. September 22nd. Little Bobby's birthday. The phone opened right away. I went to the messages, my fingers shaking. The contact name was just saved as P. Just one letter, nothing else. But the conversation went back and back and back. Months of messages. Maybe even years. I scrolled up, watching the dates go by so fast. I'm thinking about you right now. Can't stop smiling. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. Wear that red dress. Last night was amazing. You make everything better. Your husband doesn't know anything. We're completely safe. Your husband. That meant my son, Daniel. Jennifer's husband for 12 years. The father of little Bobby, who just turned 9 years old. The boy who helped Robert build a treehouse when he was only 4. I sat down in Robert's favorite chair, the one he picked out 20 years ago at a garage sale. The phone felt hot in my hands, like it was burning with all these secrets. The older messages were more careful. Different words. Let's meet at the usual spot. The old house works perfectly. She never comes there. Make sure the old lady doesn't notice anything. She watches more than people think. The old lady. That was me. They had been meeting in my house. Right here where I lived. While I baked cookies and watered plants and thought everything was fine. I scrolled more, my heart beating so hard I could hear it. Then I found something that made time stop completely. A message that changed everything. I still have some of his things at the lake house. Should I throw them away or do you want to keep them? His things. Robert's things. The answer from Jennifer came 3 months after Robert died. Keep everything. I love wearing his jackets. They remind me of him. Of us. Of those afternoons when Martha thought he was helping his brother fix cars. The phone fell from my hands and hit the carpet with a soft thud. Whoa. This couldn't be true. This couldn't be real. Robert and Jennifer. My husband and my daughter-in-law. It was impossible. It was wrong. It made me feel sick to my stomach. But there it was on that phone screen. Clear as day. Undeniable. How long did this go on? When did it start? Those Thursday afternoons when Robert said he was helping his brother Paul with car repairs. Had he been with Jennifer instead? And Paul had died 3 years ago, so I couldn't even ask him if it was true. I picked up the phone again, forcing myself to keep reading even though it hurt. There were pictures. So many pictures. Hidden in a special folder that I found by accident. Robert and Jennifer together. Robert with his arm around her. Jennifer kissing him on the cheek. My house was in the background of some pictures. My front porch. My garden. My bedroom window. They had been here. Together. In my home. One picture showed them in my garage. Jennifer was wearing one of Robert's old shirts, laughing at something. The date on the picture said August 2019. 6 months before Robert had his stroke. 6 months before I sat next to his hospital bed, holding his hand, telling him I loved him and everything would be okay. Did he think about her in those last moments? Were his final thoughts about Jennifer instead of me? A new message popped up on the screen making me jump. Did you forget your phone? Daniel just called me asking if I knew where you were. I told him you were probably at the grocery store. Get your phone and call him back before he starts asking questions. P again. The mystery person using Robert's picture. But Robert was dead. Gone for 5 years. So who was P? My mind tried to figure out this puzzle even though my heart was breaking into tiny pieces. Someone was continuing Robert's affair with Jennifer. Someone who knew about what they did. Someone who had Robert's pictures and his clothes and his secrets. I heard a car in my driveway. Jennifer's white van was coming back. I had maybe 20 seconds to decide what to do. Should I confront her right now with nothing but shock and a broken heart? Or should I stay quiet? Should I learn more? Should I understand everything before I let them know I knew? The doorbell rang. I looked at the phone in my hands. Then I looked at the door. Then back at the phone. Another message appeared on the screen. I love you so much. See you tonight. Same lake house. I'll bring your favorite wine. The lake house. More lies. More secrets. More betrayal. I made my choice. Just a minute. I called out and my voice sounded normal somehow. I put Jennifer's phone in my apron pocket, picked up a kitchen towel, and opened the door with a smile I didn't really feel. Jennifer, sweetie. Did you forget something? She stood on my porch, looking perfect as always. But now I saw something new in her eyes. Something I had missed before. Worry. Guilt. The look of someone hiding terrible secrets. My phone, she said, smiling back at me. I'm so forgetful today. Is it here? I haven't seen it, I lied, and it surprised me how easy the lie came out. But come inside. Let's look together. As she walked past me into my house, I smelled her perfume. The same perfume I used to smell on Robert's shirts in those last few years. At the time, I thought maybe she had hugged him goodbye and the smell stayed on his clothes. Now I knew the truth. I felt something change inside me right then. The sad widow was disappearing. Someone new was taking her place. Someone harder. Someone smarter. Someone more dangerous. Someone who would find out every single secret no matter how long it took. Someone who would make them pay for what they did. "Let's check the kitchen," I said sweetly, closing the door behind us. "I'm sure we'll find it somewhere." But the phone stayed hidden in my apron pocket, warm against my side, holding secrets that would destroy my family. And I was going to discover every single one. Jennifer looked through my kitchen like she was searching for buried treasure. She opened drawers. She looked behind the coffee maker. She even checked inside the cookie jar. I watched her carefully, my hand resting in my apron pocket where her phone was hiding. "That's so weird," she said, standing up straight with worry on her face. "I really thought I left it by the couch." "Maybe you took it with you and it's in your van," I suggested, keeping my voice kind and helpful. The concerned mother-in-law. Nothing more. "Maybe," she said, but she didn't sound sure. Her eyes looked around my kitchen one more time. I saw her stare at my apron pocket for just a second too long. She knows, I thought. Or she suspects something. "Well, I really need to go," Jennifer said finally. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Daniel wants me home before dinner. If I find it, I'll call you immediately," I promised her. After she drove away, I stood at my window and watched her white van disappear down the road. Only then did I take out the phone and sit in Robert's old chair. My hands shook as I kept reading. The messages went back 4 years. 4 whole years of lies. 4 years of my husband and my daughter-in-law sneaking around behind our backs. The early messages were careful and boring. Then they changed. They became romantic. Full of love words. Robert had written things to Jennifer that I forgot he knew how to say. "You make me remember what it feels like to be alive. Martha looks at me like I'm already in the grave." That message hurt more than the others. Had I done that? Had I stopped really seeing Robert somewhere along the way? But that didn't make what he did okay. Nothing could make this okay. I found messages about the lake house. A place Robert told me he sold after his uncle died. More lies. I found GPS coordinates hidden in one of the pictures. Robert and Jennifer didn't know that phones save location information in photos. I wrote down the coordinates. Lake Travis area, about an hour away from my house. Close enough for afternoon meetings. Far enough that they'd never see anyone who knew us. But I still didn't know who P was. The mystery person who took over Robert's place in this awful situation. My own phone rang, making me drop Jennifer's phone. Daniel's name showed up on my screen. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, trying to sound normal. "Mom, have you seen Jennifer? She's not answering her phone. 'Cause her phone is in my pocket. I thought she left here a few hours ago. Maybe her battery died. Maybe." He sounded stressed and tired. "Look, I need to talk to you about something important. Can I come over tonight?" My heart started beating fast. "Of course you can. Is everything okay?" A long quiet moment. "We'll talk when I get there. Love you, Mom." He hung up before I could say anything back. I stared at Jennifer's phone, then at my own. Daniel wanted to talk. About what? Did he know something? Did he suspect Jennifer was lying to him? I needed information fast. But investigating my own family had to be done carefully. One wrong move and they would hide everything. They would make me think I was a crazy old woman losing my mind. I had seen it happen to Betty Johnson, who lived 3 houses down. Her daughter-in-law was stealing her money for 2 years. When Betty finally told someone, her family said she was confused and too old to handle her own money. They took everything from her. She died in a nursing home 6 months later, still saying she was robbed. No, I had to be smarter than that. I spent the afternoon making a plan. First, I needed to save all the evidence. I connected Jennifer's phone to my computer. My grandson, little Bobby, had taught me how to do this during the pandemic when we couldn't see each other in person. I saved everything. Photos, messages, all of it. I put copies on a thumb drive and hid it inside a fake book on my shelf. One of Robert's old books about fishing that nobody would ever open. Then I tried to figure out who P was. I read the messages again, looking for clues. P was a man. That was clear from the way he wrote. He knew about Robert and Jennifer's affair. He knew private details that only they would know. The messages started just 2 months after Robert died. Like someone had been waiting for him to be gone. I can give you everything he couldn't. I'm younger and stronger and I'm not going to die on you. The meanness of that message made me feel sick. But it also told me something. P knew Robert was sick. P knew about his weak heart. I made a list of people it could be. Robert's friends. His work buddies. Someone from the neighborhood. Then I found something that made my blood turn cold. A message from 3 years ago. From Robert to Jennifer. Pete keeps asking where I go on Thursdays. I think he's following me. We need to be more careful. Pete was Paul's son. Robert's nephew. That made him my nephew too by marriage. I sat back in my chair, understanding everything now. Pete was 42 years old. Married with 3 children. He lived in Austin and visited sometimes. Always polite. Always ready to help with anything. After Paul died, Pete handled all the paperwork and belongings. Did he find proof of Robert's affair then? Or did he know about it all along? The front door opened without anyone knocking. Only Daniel had a key. Only he would walk in like that. I barely had time to hide Jennifer's phone under a couch pillow before my son walked into the living room. He looked terrible. His face was pale. He hadn't shaved. His shirt was wrinkled like he had slept in it. Daniel, honey, what's wrong? He fell into the chair across from me, putting his head in his hands. Mom, I think Jennifer is cheating on me. The irony of this moment was almost too much. I kept my face calm and neutral. What makes you think that? She's been distant for so long. Years maybe. She disappears every Thursday. Says she's at yoga class or running errands. But I checked our bank statements. No charges at the gym. No store receipts on Thursdays. He looked up at me. His eyes were red and puffy. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Am I being paranoid? Am I seeing things that aren't there? No, I said quietly. You're not paranoid. He stared at me hard. You know something, don't you? I found her phone, I admitted, pulling it out from under the pillow. She left it here this morning. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I did. I watched his face carefully. I saw hope that I was wrong. I saw fear that I was right. I saw dread about what he was about to learn. I wanted to protect him. My baby boy. My only child. But he deserved to know the truth. It's bad, isn't it? He whispered. I handed him the phone. The password is Bobby's birthday. While he looked at the messages, I went to the kitchen. I made tea that neither of us would drink. I needed to give him time. I heard him gasp. I heard him say bad words. I heard something that sounded like crying. When I came back, his face was completely white. He was shaking all over. Dad, he said in a hoarse voice. She was sleeping with Dad, my father, and my wife. They. He couldn't finish his sentence. How long? 4 years from what the messages show. Maybe longer than that. And after he died? Daniel's face twisted with anger and hurt. Who's P? Who is she with now? I think it's Pete. Your cousin. That son of a. Michael's voice got louder. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill them both. No. My voice was sharp and strong. You won't do anything crazy. We need to think about this carefully. Think about it. Mom, they destroyed everything. Dad betrayed you. He betrayed me. Jennifer has been lying to my face for years. And Pete. He stood up, pacing back and forth. What is there to think about? I want a divorce right now. I want everyone to know what they did. I want the whole world to see them for what they are. And then what happens? I asked calmly. Jennifer gets half of everything in the divorce. She might even get custody of Bobby if her lawyer makes you look unstable and angry. Pete denies everything. There's no proof connecting him to P. Just a guess. You lose your son. You lose your money. You lose your dignity. And they move on with their lives like nothing happened. He stopped pacing and looked at me. So what should we do? We investigate more. We gather evidence that nobody can argue with. We figure out what they want and why they're doing this. I leaned forward in my chair. And then we destroy them. Carefully. Methodically. In a way they never see coming. Daniel looked at his mother with new eyes. Really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in many years. I didn't know you could be this cold, Mom. Neither did I admitted honestly. But they hurt my son. They hurt me. And I won't let them get away with it. Not ever. A knock at the door stopped our conversation. We both froze in place. Mrs. Patterson. An unfamiliar woman's voice. I'm Detective Sarah Chen with the Austin Police Department. I need to talk to you about your husband's death. Daniel and I looked at each other with shock and confusion. The police. Now. Just one moment, I called out, my mind racing with questions. I grabbed Jennifer's phone and pushed it into Daniel's hands. Hide this. Don't let anyone see it. Not anyone. He nodded and disappeared into the back hallway quickly. I smoothed down my apron. I checked my reflection in the small mirror by the door. Then I opened it with a polite smile on my face. A woman around 50 years old stood on my porch. She had a badge in her hand. Her face showed no emotion. I'm sorry to bother you, Mrs. Patterson. I'm reopening the case about your husband's death. We've received some new information that needs to be investigated. Information. My voice stayed steady even though I was scared inside. My husband died of a stroke 5 years ago. It was natural causes. Yes, ma'am, but we've gotten reports that suggest his death might not have been natural after all. She took out a small notebook. Can you tell me who had access to your husband's medicine in the weeks before he died? The world felt like it was spinning again. Murder. She was suggesting that Robert was murdered. And suddenly everything, the affair, the betrayal, the secret messages, all of it became darker and scarier. I think, I said very carefully, that I should call my lawyer before we talk more. Detective Chen smiled, but her eyes stayed serious. That's your right, Mrs. Patterson. But I should tell you something. The person who made the complaint specifically named you as a suspect. They said you might have killed your husband. Detective Chen sat on my living room couch. Her notebook was open. Her eyes looked at every detail of my home, every picture on the wall, every piece of furniture. Daniel had come back from hiding Jennifer's phone. His face was carefully blank, showing no emotion, playing the role of the concerned son perfectly. I had raised him well. Maybe too well, considering what we had just discovered about all the lies in our family. Mrs. Patterson, I need to ask you questions about the days before your husband died, Detective Chen said. Specifically about his medicine. Robert had 4 different prescriptions, I answered, keeping my voice steady and calm. Blood pressure pills, cholesterol medicine, aspirin, and something for his heart. All prescribed by Dr. Williams. Is something wrong with that? Dr. Williams moved to Florida 3 years ago. We haven't been able to get his records yet. She looked at her notebook. Can you tell me who else could touch those medications? Just me and Robert. They were kept in our bathroom cabinet upstairs. And you gave them to him every day. No, Robert took his own pills. He was perfectly capable of doing that himself. I stopped, remembering something. Wait, that's not completely true. In the last few months before he died, Jennifer would sometimes help him with his medicine. She used to be a nurse before she married Daniel. She wanted to make sure he took everything correctly. Detective Chen's pen moved across the page, writing quickly. Your daughter-in-law had access to his medications. She visited regularly to help. She cared about Robert. Or at least I thought she did. Even as I said it, I felt sick thinking about what was really happening. Mom, Daniel said, his voice tight and strained. Are you saying Jennifer might have? I'm not saying anything, Detective Chen interrupted firmly. I'm just collecting information. She turned to Daniel. When did your wife start helping with your father's medicine? I don't remember exactly. Maybe 8 months before he died. Maybe longer. Daniel looked at me with understanding dawning in his eyes. She said she wanted to help. She said Mom sometimes forgot to remind him. She said it would be easier if she checked on his pills when she visited. I had never forgotten. Not once. Not ever. But Jennifer had convinced Robert that I was becoming forgetful and confused, that I needed her help. I had been grateful then. Happy to have assistance as Robert's health got worse. Now I wondered what else she had convinced him of. What other lies had she told? Detective, I asked directly. Who made this complaint? Who told you I murdered my husband? Detective Chen hesitated. Then she closed her notebook. The complaint was anonymous, but it included very specific details. Information about medicine changes, about arguments between you and your husband, about money reasons why you might want him dead. What money reasons? Daniel demanded, his voice getting louder. My parents were comfortable, but they weren't rich. There was no fortune to inherit. According to the complaint, your father had a life insurance policy worth $750,000. Your mother was listed as the only person who would get the money when he died. The room went completely silent. I felt Daniel's eyes staring at me with shock. I didn't know about any life insurance policy, I said slowly, carefully. Robert handled all our money and bills. After he died, I found the usual bank accounts, the house, his pension from work. But no life insurance. Nothing like that. You didn't receive any payout. No check from an insurance company. No. Nothing at all. Detective Chen's expression changed slightly. Surprise maybe. Or suspicion. That's very interesting. According to the complaint, this policy was bought 4 months before your husband died. The payment came from your joint checking account. 4 months before Robert died. Right when the messages between him and Jennifer were getting more desperate, more passionate. Right when he had written, I can't keep living this double life anymore. I want to see our bank statements, I said firmly. From that time period. We're working on getting those records through legal channels, Detective Chen confirmed. But if you have access to your accounts. She does, Daniel said quickly. He pulled out his phone. Mom, you still use the same bank, right? I can help you look at the old statements online right now. We worked together while Detective Chen watched us carefully. We pulled up records from 5 years ago, scrolling through pages and pages of charges. There it was. A payment of $1,500 to Lone Star Insurance Company. The date was 4 months before Robert died. The note in our bookkeeping said medical expenses, which wouldn't have seemed strange at all during that time when Robert was seeing so many doctors. I never approved this, I said, and now my voice was shaking. I never even saw this charge on our statements. Who else had access to your accounts besides you and your husband? Detective Chen asked. Jennifer, Daniel said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. After Dad's stroke, she offered to help manage their bills and paperwork. Mom was overwhelmed with taking care of Dad. Jennifer said it would be one less thing to worry about. One less burden. The detective's pen moved faster now, writing more notes. So your wife had access to your parents' bank accounts. She had access to your father's medications. And according to the complaint, she was present when your father died. We were all there, Daniel protested, but his voice was weak. It was a family dinner at this house. Dad collapsed at the table. The ambulance came. The paramedics said it was a massive stroke. There was nothing suspicious about it at all. But there was something suspicious. I remembered that dinner now with perfect clarity. Every detail coming back to me. Jennifer had cooked Robert's favorite meal. Barbecue brisket with potato salad and green beans. She had been so attentive and caring, making sure he ate enough, refilling his water glass constantly, insisting he take his evening medications early because dinner was running late. And I remembered something else. Something I had dismissed at the time as just confusion from grief and shock. His pills, I said slowly, the memory becoming clear. That night Robert said his pills looked different. Smaller, he said. Different colors than usual. Jennifer told him the pharmacy had switched to a different manufacturer. That it was the same medicine, just from a different company. That it happened all the time. Detective Chen leaned forward in her seat. Did you verify that? Did you check with the pharmacy? No. I trusted her completely. She was a nurse. She knew about medicine. Why would I question her? Mom! Daniel's voice cracked with emotion. Are you saying Jennifer killed Dad? Poisoned him? I'm saying we need to find out what was really in those pills, I replied, looking directly at Detective Chen. Is it too late to do an autopsy after 5 years? After this much time, finding toxins would be very difficult. But not impossible. We would need to exhume the body. Dig up the casket and test the remains. Detective Chen stood up from the couch. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to understand something important. Right now, you are still a person of interest in this investigation. The complaint names you specifically. It includes details that suggest someone with inside knowledge made the report. If you're being framed by someone else, we need to figure out who and why. After she left, Daniel and I sat without speaking for a long time. Outside, the afternoon was fading into evening. Shadows grew longer across my living room floor, making everything look darker and more ominous. We need to talk to Jennifer, Daniel finally said, breaking the silence. Confront her with all of this. Make her explain everything. No, I stood up, my mind working through all the possibilities. If Jennifer filed that complaint, if she's trying to frame me for murder, then confronting her will just make her more careful. She'll destroy evidence. She'll create alibis. She might even run away and disappear. Then what do we do? Just wait. We follow her tonight. The message said she was meeting P at the lake house. We need to know what they're planning. What they're going to do next. Daniel looked uncertain and worried. Mom, if they're dangerous, if they killed Dad, then we stay hidden, I interrupted. We stay safe. We document everything. We record their conversations. We take pictures. We gather evidence that proves what they've done beyond any doubt. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. Your father's death might not have been an accident or natural causes. That life insurance money went somewhere. Someone is trying to pin a murder on me. I need to know why. I need to know the truth. We took Daniel's truck, leaving my car at home in case Jennifer drove by to check if I was here. The GPS coordinates led us north on the highway, then onto smaller back roads that wound through dark pine forests. My phone's GPS app guided us to a turnoff marked only by a faded sign that said, "Private property." The lake house sat a half-mile down a gravel road, hidden from view. A small wooden cabin with a tin roof and a porch facing the water. Lights glowed warmly in the windows, looking cozy and inviting. Evil shouldn't look so pleasant. "That's Jennifer's van," Daniel whispered, pointing to the white vehicle parked next to a newer black truck. "And that's Pete's truck." We parked further back, hidden behind thick trees and bushes. We approached on foot, walking carefully and quietly. The October night air was getting cold. Our breath made little clouds we could see. Through the cabin's window, I could see Jennifer and Pete sitting at a small wooden table. They had wine glasses. They looked relaxed and comfortable and intimate. Daniel had his phone out, recording video through the window. I stood beside him, my heart pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. I watched my nephew and daughter-in-law toast each other with their wine glasses. "Can't believe the old woman actually fell for it," Pete was saying. His voice carried through the thin cabin walls. "The detective totally bought our story. Anonymous complaint. Specific details. Financial motive. They'll arrest her within the week." "She's too trusting," Jennifer laughed. It was a cold sound without any warmth or humor. "She always has been. Even Robert said she was naive and gullible. That's why it was so easy to." She stopped talking suddenly. Pete had raised his hand, looking toward the window where we were standing. Had he seen us? Had he heard something? We ducked down fast, pressing our bodies against the cabin's wooden wall. My knees screamed with pain, but I didn't dare move even an inch. Daniel's hand gripped my arm tightly. Both of us were frozen, barely breathing, hearts racing with fear. "Thought I saw something moving out there," Pete said. "Probably just a deer or a raccoon," Jennifer replied. "You're being paranoid. Nobody knows about this place. Even if Daniel suspected something was going on, he would never find it. He's too busy being the perfect son, just like his father was the perfect husband. Until he wasn't." "Until he wasn't," Pete agreed, and they both laughed. The sound made my blood run ice cold. They weren't just having an affair. They had planned something. They had planned all of it. Every detail. "How much longer until the insurance money comes through?" Pete asked. "The policy had a 2-year waiting period where they investigate suspicious deaths. That ended months ago. Once they arrest Martha for Robert's murder, the insurance company will have no reason to deny our claim. They'll have to pay." Jennifer swirled her wine around in her glass. "Once they arrest Martha for killing Robert, I'll act shocked and devastated. The grieving daughter-in-law who can't believe her sweet mother-in-law could do such a horrible thing. The insurance company will pay the claim to Robert's estate. And I'm the executor of the estate since his will was never properly updated after he died." "Exactly," Pete finished her thought. "We split it 50-50 just like we planned. Minus Daniel's portion, unfortunately. But we can work around that problem. Once Martha's in prison and the scandal dies down, I'll file for divorce. I'll claim emotional trauma and distress from everything. I'll get half of everything Daniel owns, plus my share of the insurance money." Daniel's grip on my arm became painful, but I didn't make a sound. Through the window, I watched Pete stand up and walk behind Jennifer's chair. He put his hands on her shoulders. "You're brilliant," he said with admiration. "Using Robert's paranoia about Martha forgetting things. Getting her to step back from managing his medications. That was pure genius." "He was so easy to manipulate," Jennifer said, tilting her head back to look up at Pete. "Especially after you told him that Martha was complaining about him to her friends. That she said she wished he would hurry up and die. That she was tired of taking care of him. I had never said those things. Never even thought those things. Not once. But Robert had become distant from me in those final months. He had seemed angry and cold. I had thought it was because of his illness, because he was in pain and scared of dying. Now I understood that it was Jennifer poisoning his mind against me, making him think I hated him, making him vulnerable and alone. And the pills? Pete asked casually, like they were discussing a recipe for cookies. Oleander extract. Easy to make when you know how. I mixed it with his regular heart medication for 3 weeks before the dinner. Built up slowly in his system. Then that night, one final dose mixed into his food. Enough to cause cardiac arrest and stroke. The autopsy showed exactly what we expected. Natural death from his heart condition. No one even thought to look for poison. Until now, Pete said. Until you decided to frame Martha for it. If that detective gets smart and orders the body dug up, forensic tests. She won't, Jennifer interrupted confidently. She already has her suspect, her motive, her timeline. Martha Patterson, the neglected wife who discovered her husband's affair and decided to cash in on his life insurance. It's perfect. Pete moved around to face Jennifer. He pulled her up from her chair and into his arms. In 6 months we'll be rich. In 8 months, we'll be together permanently. And Martha will be rotting in prison for a murder that we committed. A murder she had nothing to do with. They kissed and Daniel turned away. His face was twisted with pain and rage and disgust. He had seen enough, heard enough. We both had. We crept back through the woods to the truck, moving as quietly as shadows. Once inside with the doors closed, Daniel started the engine with hands that shook violently. They killed him, he whispered, his voice breaking. Jennifer murdered my father. My own wife killed my dad. And Pete helped her, I added. And now they're framing you. Trying to send you to prison for the rest of your life. They made a terrible mistake, I said quietly, but my voice was hard as steel. They told us everything. We have it all recorded. We have evidence. Proof of what they did. We take this to the police, Daniel said, pulling onto the dark road. We show them the recording. We show them Jennifer's phone. We tell them everything we know. No, I interrupted him. Not yet. We can't. He stared at me with confusion. Mom, they murdered Dad. They're trying to destroy you. We have to. Daniel, think carefully, I said. That recording was made without their knowledge or permission. Texas has laws about that. You need everyone's consent to record a private conversation. A good lawyer could get it thrown out of court. Say it's illegal evidence. And the phone. I shouldn't have kept it. That could be called theft. Invasion of privacy. And the messages could be explained away by clever lawyers. So what do we do? Just let them win. I looked out at the dark road ahead. At the shadows of trees rushing past us. I felt something cold and determined settle deep in my chest like ice. We make them confess, I said. Properly. Legally. In a way that can't be dismissed or explained away by expensive lawyers. I turned to face Daniel. And we do it in front of witnesses who can't be intimidated or bought off. How do we do that? Your father's estate, I said slowly. The plan was forming in my mind as I spoke. It was never properly settled because of the missing life insurance policy. We need to have a formal meeting about the will. Bring everyone together. You, Jennifer, Pete, the lawyer, maybe even Detective Chen if we can arrange it. And then what happens? Then we spring our trap, I said. But first, we need to find where that insurance money actually went. Because wherever it is, that's where we'll find the final piece of evidence we need to destroy them completely. Daniel drove faster. The truck's headlights cut through the darkness like knives. Behind us, the cabin lights grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared. But I knew we'd be going back there soon. Very soon. The real war was just beginning, and I intended to win it no matter what it took. We spent that entire night in Daniel's home office. We were surrounded by 5 years of financial records that I had brought from my house. Bank statements, credit card bills, insurance documents, legal papers. Everything Robert had left behind when he died. Jennifer was supposedly at her mother's house. That's what she had texted Daniel. But more likely, she was back at the lake house with Pete, celebrating their victory. But the beneficiary had been changed 3 months after Robert died. Changed from me to something called the Robert Patterson Memorial Trust. Managed by Peter Patterson as the sole trustee with full authority. That bastard, Daniel breathed out. He set up a trust in Dad's name. Probably told the insurance company he was handling the estate properly and legally. Made it all look legitimate. Can we access the trust documents? See what's really in it. Not without a court order demanding them, Daniel said. His fingers flew across the keyboard, typing rapidly. But wait. Mom, Pete filed the trust paperwork with the county clerk's office. That's public record. Anyone can look at it. I can pull it up right now. The document appeared on the computer screen. The trust had been established, for the benefit of Robert Patterson's heirs, with Peter Patterson as sole trustee. He had full discretion over all distributions. Complete control. In plain English, Pete controlled all the money. He could do whatever he wanted with it. Nobody could stop him or question him. This is fraud, I said firmly. The insurance company thinks the money went to Robert's estate. But Pete diverted it into a trust that he controls completely. Daniel kept scrolling through the document, reading the fine print. Look at this distribution schedule, Mom. Pete authorized himself to take reasonable trustee fees up to 45% of the trust assets. Jennifer is listed as a special consultant, entitled to 40%. That leaves only 15% for Robert's actual heirs. You and me. They were going to give us just enough to avoid suspicion, I said quietly, understanding their plan completely now. Keep the rest for themselves. 85% of $750,000. Over $600,000, Daniel calculated. His jaw clenched tight. They murdered Dad for $600,000 and tried to frame you for it. I'm calling Pete right now, Daniel said, reaching for his phone. No, I said sharply. Let them think we're scared. Let them think their threat worked. Let them believe they're winning. An idea was forming in my mind. Dangerous, yes. Risky, absolutely. But necessary. What if we could force them to move the money? Make them do something that proves their guilt beyond any doubt. How do we do that? By making them panic, I said. By threatening what they care about most. Each other. Their freedom. Their future together. I spent the next 2 hours carefully drafting a message. Not from my phone or Daniel's. We drove to an all-night diner on the highway. We used their free public Wi-Fi to create an anonymous email account that couldn't be traced back to us. Then I sent the message to Pete's personal email address. I know about the oleander poison. I know about the lake house meetings. I know about the insurance fraud and the fake trust. You have 48 hours to transfer $300,000 to the account below. Or I go to the police with evidence that Jennifer murdered Robert. She goes to prison for life. You go free. Choice. Make it wisely. A concerned friend. I included a cryptocurrency wallet number that Daniel had set up online. Completely untraceable and anonymous. Impossible to track. You're blackmailing him? Daniel asked, looking at me with disbelief. I'm making him choose between money and Jennifer, between his freedom and hers. If he pays, we have absolute proof he knows about the murder. Proof he's been covering it up. If he doesn't pay but panics instead, he'll contact Jennifer. Maybe do something stupid and desperate. Either way, they'll make a mistake. They'll reveal themselves. And if he calls the police on us, he won't, I said confidently. Because going to the police means admitting he knows about a murder. Admitting he's been covering it up and hiding evidence. Admitting he committed insurance fraud and stole money. He's trapped. I looked at my son across the diner table. We're forcing them out into the open. Into the light where everyone can see them for what they really are. The response came 2 hours later. Not to the anonymous email account, but directly to my personal cell phone. Pete's voice on a call. Angry. Threatening. Martha, we need to talk. Just you and me. Face to face. Tomorrow at noon. The lake house. Come alone or Bobby disappears forever. Do you understand me? I met Daniel's eyes across the table. The trap was working. But it was also tightening around us like a noose. Around our necks. I'll be there, I told Pete, keeping my voice steady and calm. Good. And Martha, don't be stupid about this. You're just an old woman. You can't win against us. You never could. He hung up without saying goodbye. Daniel was already shaking his head. No, absolutely not. You're not going there alone. They've killed once already. They'll kill again. Which is exactly why you're not coming with me, I interrupted. If something happens to me, you're Bobby's only protection. His only family who cares about him. You need to stay with him. Keep him safe no matter what. Mom. Daniel, listen to me. I'm going to wire myself for sound. I'll wear a recording device. The legal kind that's allowed in court. I'll get two-party consent by telling Pete at the start that I'm recording. Everything he says after that will be admissible as evidence. Legal and proper. And if he kills you after you tell him you're recording, what then? He won't. Because I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. An offer that gives him everything he wants. I pulled out a document I had prepared earlier that morning. A handwritten confession, signed and dated in my own handwriting. I'm going to confess to Robert's murder. Tell Pete that I did it. That I knew about the affair. That I poisoned Robert in a jealous rage because I couldn't stand being betrayed. That I'm willing to take the blame and go to prison quietly without fighting. Why would you do that? That's insane. Because it gives Pete exactly what he wants, I explained. Me in prison. Out of the way. Out of the picture. Gone. But in exchange, I want two things from him. I want the insurance money returned to Robert's estate where it legally belongs. And I want Jennifer out of your life permanently. A quiet divorce with no custody fight over Bobby. No drama. No scandal. Daniel stared at me like I had lost my mind completely. You'd confess to murder. Actually confess. A false confession isn't a crime, I said calmly. I'm not actually guilty. And once Pete agrees, once he admits on tape that there was a murder, that Jennifer poisoned Robert, that they committed insurance fraud together, then I have everything I need. I recant my confession immediately. I reveal the recording to the police. And we have them. Completely. Undeniably. It's too risky. Too dangerous. It's the only way, I insisted. Trust me. I think I know who sent these threats, I said carefully, choosing my words. I'm meeting them today at noon to talk it through. To try to resolve this peacefully. I wanted you to know in case something goes wrong. In case something happens to me. Mrs. Patterson, if you're in danger, if you think. I'll be recording the entire conversation, I interrupted. Two-party consent. Fully legal and admissible in court. If I'm right about who's threatening me and my family, the recording will prove it beyond any doubt. Detective Chen looked skeptical but nodded slowly. Where is this meeting taking place? I gave her the address of the lake house. I watched her write it down in her notebook. If I don't call you by 1 o'clock this afternoon, something is very wrong, I said seriously. The recording device will have GPS tracking built in. You'll be able to find me easily. It wasn't quite true. The recording device Daniel had purchased that morning at the electronics store didn't actually have GPS. But Detective Chen didn't need to know that small detail. I just needed her to come looking for me if things went terribly wrong. At 11:30, Daniel drove me to a spot about half a mile from the lake house. A place where the truck would be hidden but close enough to hear if I screamed. He helped me test the recording device. It was a small unit clipped inside my bra. The microphone was hidden in my shirt collar. "Promise me you'll be careful," he said. His eyes were red from lack of sleep and crying. "Promise me you'll come back safe." "I promise you I'll try my best," I said. I kissed his cheek gently. "Keep Bobby safe. If this goes wrong, if I don't come back, the thumb drive hidden in Robert's fishing book has everything. Every piece of evidence. Give it to the police. Tell them the whole story from beginning to end. Mom, I love you so much. I love you too, Daniel. You've been a wonderful son. The best son anyone could ask for. I'm so proud of you." I squeezed his hand tightly. "Now let me go finish this. Let me end it once and for all." I walked the last half mile through the woods alone. My knees protested and ached with every step. The October sun was bright overhead but gave no warmth. Dead leaves crunched loudly under my feet. Ahead I could see the lake house clearly. Pete's black truck was parked outside in the driveway. As I got closer, the cabin door opened slowly. Pete stood there in the doorway, smiling confidently. Behind him, I could see Jennifer sitting at the wooden table. Her face showed no emotion at all. Cold and blank. "Martha," Pete said warmly, like I had come to visit socially. Like we were family having a pleasant get-together. "Come inside. We have a lot to discuss today." I climbed the porch steps carefully. My heart was hammering wildly in my chest. My hand instinctively touched the recording device hidden under my jacket. "Before we start talking," I said clearly and loudly, "I want you both to know I'm recording this entire conversation. For my own protection and safety." Pete's smile didn't change at all. Didn't even flicker. "Of course you are. We expected that. We have nothing to hide from you, Martha." But as I stepped inside the cabin and saw the expression on Jennifer's face, I realized something terrible. I had made a catastrophic mistake. A huge error in judgment. On the table in front of her sat a gun. Black and deadly. "Actually, Martha," Jennifer said softly, almost gently, "you're not recording anything at all. That device you're wearing has been jammed. Look, we've been listening to your phone calls for days. Reading your emails. Tracking your every move. We know everything you've planned. Every single detail." Pete closed the door behind me. The lock clicked with a sound like a death sentence. Like doom. "Sit down," Jennifer ordered calmly. "We have a new proposition for you. Different deal. And this time you don't get to negotiate the terms. You don't get a choice." I stood in the center of the small cabin. My hands were steady despite the gun on the table just a few feet away. 73 years of life had taught me many lessons. The most important one was that panic kills you faster than any weapon. Rachel and Pete expected fear from me. Terror. Begging. Instead, I gave them calm curiosity. "How long have you been listening?" I asked, my voice even and controlled. Pete laughed, clearly very pleased with himself. "Since yesterday morning. Right after you left this cabin. I put a tracking device on Daniel's truck. Cloned your cell phone remotely using spyware. Surprisingly easy when you know the right people and have the right technology. We heard every conversation you had. Read every email you sent. Watched you plan your little trap like it was a television show. Then you know I told Detective Chen where I'd be," I said calmly. "She's expecting my phone call in exactly 1 hour. When I don't call, she'll come looking for me here." "Actually, she's not expecting anything," Jennifer interjected smoothly, standing up from the table. "I called her this morning. From your phone using a voice app that sounds exactly like you. I canceled your meeting with her. Told her you were feeling sick. That you needed to reschedule for next week. She was very understanding and sympathetic. Jennifer walked around the table slowly, deliberately. She kept distance between us, staying out of my reach. You didn't think this through, Martha. You're clever, I'll give you that. Much smarter than Robert ever was. But you're old. You're alone. And you're completely outmatched. Out of your league. Sit down, Pete ordered again, his voice harder now. More threatening. He gestured to a wooden chair in the corner. I sat down slowly, carefully noting the layout of the cabin as I did. One door leading outside. 2 windows, both clearly visible from where Pete and Jennifer were positioned. They had placed themselves strategically and smartly. Pete was blocking the only exit. Jennifer had easy access to the gun on the table. They had done this before. Or at least they had planned it very carefully in advance. Thought through every detail. Here's what's going to happen now, Jennifer said. Her voice took on that patient, explanatory tone she probably used with difficult patients when she was still working as a nurse. You're going to write a confession for us. A real detailed one. You killed Robert because you discovered his affair with me. You poisoned him with oleander that you made yourself from plants in your garden. You've been growing oleander bushes for years, haven't you, Martha? My sister Grace. They had researched everything about my life. Every detail. Every connection. You'll confess to the murder in writing, Jennifer continued, pacing slowly. Then you'll write a suicide note. A sad note about being grief-stricken and filled with guilt. Unable to live with what you did. Facing prison and disgrace. You drove out here to Robert's lake house, the place where he had been happy in his final years. The place where he found love and joy. And you took your own life to escape the consequences. With what? I asked calmly. I don't have any pills with me. No poison. No weapon. Pete pulled a prescription bottle from his jacket pocket. He shook it, making the pills rattle inside. Sleeping pills. The exact same ones you take every single night. We got them from your medicine cabinet 2 days ago when we searched your house. There's more than enough in this bottle to kill you. Way more than enough. They had been in my house again. Violated my home just like they had violated my marriage. My trust. My family. My entire life. And if I refused to do this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Already understood what they would say. Then we shoot you right now and make it look like suicide anyway, Pete said flatly without emotion. But that's Messier. Raises more questions with the police. Creates problems. This way is much cleaner and simpler. You confess. You die. The investigation closes completely. Daniel inherits everything. Jennifer gets half in the divorce. And life goes on normally. Like nothing ever happened. Except Daniel knows the truth about everything, I pointed out. He heard your confession at this very cabin 2 nights ago. He has Jennifer's old phone with all the message history. All the evidence. All the proof. Had, Jennifer corrected me, emphasizing the past tense. Past tense, Martha. I remotely wiped my old phone yesterday morning. Every message deleted. Every photo gone. Every piece of evidence erased completely. And that recording you made outside the cabin. Inadmissible in court, just like you told Daniel yourself. You did us a huge favor, actually. Explaining all the legal problems with secret recordings. Teaching us exactly what wouldn't work in court. She was absolutely right. I had been so focused on gathering evidence legally and properly that I had shown them every weakness in my plan, every flaw, every mistake. Daniel will never stop investigating, I said. He knows you killed his father. He'll never give up. Daniel is emotional and impulsive, Jennifer replied dismissively. He'll grieve for you. He'll suspect me for a while, maybe even hate me. But without proof, without evidence, what can he actually do? Eventually, he'll move on with his life. People always do. They always forget. And Ethan needs his mother. Bobby needs me. The courts will see that. A child needs his mother, no matter what. The mention of my grandson sent a spike of cold fear straight through my heart. But I kept my face neutral and calm, showed no emotion. You'd really do this? Yes. Murder your husband's mother. Your son's grandmother. Do it together, right in front of each other. We've done much worse than this, Pete said with a casual shrug. Robert was actually harder, to be honest. Took weeks of careful dosing. Monitoring his symptoms every day. Adjusting the amounts. This is almost merciful by comparison. Quick and relatively painless. Besides, Rachel added, moving closer to where I sat, you're not really Daniel's mother anymore, are you? Not the woman he knew and loved. That woman died when she discovered Robert's affair. The person sitting here now is bitter, vengeful, unrecognizable, changed completely. Daniel will mourn the mother he remembers from his childhood. Not the woman you've become in the last few days. Her words were carefully chosen to wound me, to make me doubt myself and my choices. But I had learned something important during these terrible, life-changing days. Transformation wasn't weakness. It was survival. The naive, trusting Martha was gone forever. In her place sat someone harder, wiser, more dangerous than Jennifer could possibly imagine or understand. I needed to buy time. Needed to think clearly. Detective Chen might not be coming. But Daniel knew where I was. He would wait for my signal. And when it didn't come, what are you thinking about right now? Jennifer asked sharply, suspiciously. Michael. Don't bother hoping he'll save you. He's busy right now chasing a wild goose. We sent him a text from your phone saying Bobby was in an accident at school, that he needed to get there immediately. He's probably halfway across the city by now, panicking. She smiled coldly. Your grandson is perfectly safe, by the way. No emergency at all. Just Daniel running around frantically while we handle business here. Take care of loose ends. They had thought of everything. Covered every possibility. Or so they believed in their arrogance. You're wondering if there's a way out of this, Pete said, reading my expression accurately. There isn't one, Martha. We've planned this for years. Literally years. Even before Robert died, we knew you'd eventually become a problem. You're too observant, too persistent, too stubborn. Robert was supposed to change his will years ago. Leave everything to a trust we controlled. But the old fool kept putting it off. Delaying. Said he wanted to wait until after Christmas. After Bobby's birthday. After the spring planting season. There was always some excuse. So you killed him before he could change his mind, I said quietly. Understanding was clicking into place. All the pieces fitting together. You murdered him before he could reconsider anything. Before he could confess to me or fix his mistakes. We accelerated our timeline, Jennifer admitted without shame or remorse. Robert was getting sentimental and weak. Talking about making things right with you. About ending our affair. About confessing everything and asking for your forgiveness. He was becoming a liability. Risk. We couldn't allow that. She picked up the gun from the table. Checked it casually, professionally. Then set it back down. The message was crystal clear and unmistakable. They were comfortable with violence. Experienced with it, even. Practiced. Write the confession, Pete ordered, pushing paper and a pen across the table toward me. We're running out of time. We don't have all day for this. I picked up the pen slowly. But instead of writing what they wanted, I looked directly at Jennifer. stared into her cold, empty eyes. "Did you ever love Daniel?" Yes. "Even a little bit. Even at the beginning?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. Surprise flickered across her face. "What does that matter now? Why does it make any difference?" Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then she shrugged carelessly. "Daniel was a means to an end. That's all he ever was. Access to your family. Robert. To this comfortable life and financial security. He was sweet and naive. Easy to manipulate and control. Still is, actually. And Robert. Pressed. Robert was pathetic," she said with pure contempt dripping from every word. "A vain old man desperate to feel young again. Desperate for attention and validation. He actually believed I loved him. Truly believed he was special and different. That what we had was real and meaningful." She laughed, and the sound was cruel and mocking. "The only person I've ever really loved is Pete. We've been together since high school. 15 years. Everything else has been an act. Performance. A lie. Even Bobby." The question came out harder than I intended. "Harper. Even your own son." "Bobby was necessary," Jennifer said coldly, like she was discussing a business transaction. "A child to cement my position in the family. To give me leverage and control. To make me seem normal and trustworthy. He's useful for my purposes. That's all." Hearing her talk about my precious grandson like he was a tool made something snap deep inside me. Something fundamental and primal. But I kept my voice level and steady. Kept my hands from shaking. "One more question," I said. "The anonymous complaint to the police. That was your backup plan, wasn't it? Your insurance policy." "Exactly right," Pete confirmed, looking pleased. "If you got too close to the truth, if you figured things out, we'd frame you for Robert's murder before you could expose us. The complaint has just enough specific detail to seem credible and believable. Your access to his medications. Your financial motive. Your opportunity. Very thorough and convincing." "Extremely thorough," I acknowledged. Then I looked down at the paper in front of me. At the blank page waiting for my false confession. "I assume you want this confession to be very detailed. Very believable and convincing." "Extremely detailed," Jennifer emphasized. "Names, dates, methods, motivations. Enough that no investigator will question it. Enough that it closes the case completely and permanently." I began to write. My handwriting was steady and clear. But I wasn't writing a confession to murder. "I, Martha Patterson," I wrote clearly, being of sound mind and body, "do hereby declare the following as true testimony given under duress and threat of death." Behind me, neither Jennifer nor Pete could see the actual words I was writing. They were standing too far away. Too confident that I would obey them. Too certain of their control. On October 8, 2025, I came to the lake house on Lake Travis, owned by Peter Patterson. Present were Peter Patterson and Jennifer Patterson, who threatened me with death unless I confessed to murdering my husband, Robert Patterson. I kept writing steadily, keeping them talking and distracted. "Tell me about the oleander," I said conversationally. "Where did you learn how to extract the poison? How to use it? YouTube, believe it." "It or not," Jennifer said, sounding almost proud. "There are videos about everything online if you know where to look. Extracting plant toxins. Dosing information. How to make it look natural. The internet is an amazing resource for creative problem solving." I wrote down every word she said, documenting everything. Every confession. Every admission of guilt. And the insurance fraud. Yes. The fake trust. Whose idea was that? "That was my brilliant plan," Pete said, puffing up with pride. "I set up the trust while Robert was still alive. Had the paperwork drawn up by a lawyer who didn't ask too many questions. Got Robert to sign what he thought was a property deed for this cabin. He never actually read it carefully. Just signed where I pointed. Then I forged his signature on the insurance application using that real signature as a template. Simple really when you know what you're doing." "Absolutely brilliant," I murmured, still writing. Still documenting. I was recording everything on paper that the jam device couldn't capture electronically. Their full confession in their own words. Are you almost finished with that? Jennifer asked impatiently. This is taking way too long. We need to move things along. Almost done, I said. Then, as I wrote the final lines, I made my move. My last desperate gamble. I had noticed something they had both missed. A small detail that gave me one slim chance at survival. The gun on the table was a revolver, and it was positioned facing toward Jennifer, not toward me. When she had set it down after checking it, she had placed it carelessly. The handle was pointing toward the center of the table. Not close enough for me to grab easily, but close enough to knock away if I was fast enough. One last thing, I said, looking up from my writing. Looking directly at Jennifer. You should know something important. I recorded information that will destroy you both. Something you didn't find, didn't wipe, didn't anticipate at all. You're bluffing, Jennifer said, but I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Robert's original lawyer, I continued calmly. Mr. Henderson. I sent him a sealed envelope 4 days ago with very specific instructions. If anything happens to me, if I die or disappear or get arrested, he opens it. Inside is a complete account of everything I discovered. Copies of your messages before you wiped them. Financial records showing the fraud. A detailed timeline of Robert's murder. All of it documented and dated and notarized. It was a complete lie. Total fiction. I had done no such thing. But Jennifer didn't know that. Pete didn't know that either. You're lying to us, Pete said, but he looked at Jennifer with worry creeping into his expression. Real concern. Am I? I smiled coldly. You've been so busy tracking my phone and my emails and my obvious digital moves. Did you think to monitor my physical mail? My in-person meetings? My face-to-face conversations? I'm 73 years old. I know how to exist and communicate without leaving a digital trail. I grew up before the My elbow connected hard with his stomach, right in the solar plexus. He gasped, his breath exploding out. His grip on my arm released. Jennifer had recovered the gun now. She was raising it with shaking hands, pointing it directly at me. Don't move another inch, she ordered. Her voice was high-pitched with panic and rage. Don't you dare. The window behind her exploded inward in a shower of breaking glass. Daniel crashed through it, his shoulder hitting Jennifer's back with tremendous force. The gun fired with a deafening bang in the small enclosed space. The bullet buried itself in the wooden ceiling above us. Michael wrestled the weapon away from her violently. His face was cut and bleeding from the broken glass. But his grip on the gun was iron strong, unbreakable. Get outside, Mom, he shouted urgently. Right now. Go. Behind him, through the shattered window, I saw more figures approaching rapidly. Detective Chen. 2 uniformed police officers. All of them running toward the cabin with weapons drawn. P tried to run for the back door, but I stuck my foot out. Petty, vindictive gesture, but deeply satisfying nonetheless. He crashed to the floor hard, and within seconds officers were through the door. Weapons drawn, shouting commands, ordering everyone to freeze. Everything happened very quickly after that moment. Pete and Jennifer were handcuffed roughly. Read their rights while they protested and shouted. Their threats and denials faded into legal jargon and official police procedure. The confession I had written was carefully photographed and bagged as evidence. Daniel's phone showed the recording he had made through the broken window from outside. Every single word Jennifer and Pete had said. Every admission of guilt. Every confession of murder. Detective Chen looked at me with an expression somewhere between admiration and complete exasperation. Mrs. Patterson, you could have been killed today. Do you understand that? You almost died. But I wasn't killed, I said simply. My hands were shaking now with delayed reaction and shock. But I remained standing on my own 2 feet. And now you have everything you need to prosecute them. Everything. The recording through the window is legally admissible, she confirmed. Daniel was on public property. The window was already partially open. He could hear clearly. And you had already told them you were recording. They had no reasonable expectation of privacy after that. I looked at my son. My brave, foolish, wonderful son who had smashed through a window to save his mother's life. I told you to stay with Bobby. To keep him safe. I took him to the police station first thing this morning, Daniel said, grinning through the blood on his face. Told Detective Chen everything we knew. Played her the recording from the cabin 2 nights ago. She agreed it might not hold up perfectly in court, but it was enough for probable cause to investigate. We've been outside for 30 minutes, listening and waiting for the right moment to move in. You heard everything. Yes. Every single word, he confirmed. His expression hardened as he watched Jennifer being led to a police car in handcuffs, including what she said about Bobby, that he was just useful to her, just a tool. That's the part that will stay with me forever. Haunt me. That, I knew, was the wound that would take the longest time to heal. Not the betrayal of the affair. Not even the murder of his father. But knowing that Bobby had meant nothing to his own mother except leverage, a means to an end. As they loaded Jennifer into the police car, she looked at me through the window. No remorse in her eyes. No fear. No shame. Just cold calculation even now, even caught. You won't win in the long run, she called out. Her voice was muffled by the glass. I'll get the best lawyers money can buy. I'll fight this. I'll. The car door slammed shut, cutting off her threats mid-sentence. Pete was quieter as they put him in a separate police vehicle. Defeated. Broken. As they closed his door, he said only one thing. We would have gotten away with it completely. We should have won. No, I said, loud enough for him to hear through the open window. You wouldn't have. You couldn't have. Because you made the same mistake everyone makes. The same error in judgment. You underestimated an old woman. Dismissed me as harmless and weak. Detective Chan smiled grimly as the police cars drove away. Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to need you to come to the station now. Give a complete formal statement. This will take several hours. Of course, I agreed. But first, I turned to Daniel. Call Jennifer's mother immediately. Tell her to keep Bobby there tonight. Don't bring him home yet. He doesn't need to know about any of this right now. Let him have one more day of being a normal, innocent child before his entire world falls apart around him. Daniel nodded, tears forming in his eyes. As I rode in the back of Detective Chen's car, not under arrest but just being transported, I looked out at the October afternoon. At the lake glittering peacefully in the distance. At the autumn leaves blazing brilliant red and gold in the trees. Robert had died because of lies born in that lake house. Or at least the lies had grown strong there. Fed and nurtured. But today finally the truth had won. The truth had emerged into the light. The war wasn't completely over yet. There would be trials ahead. Legal battles. Family trauma to navigate carefully. Healing that would take years. But the most important battle had been won decisively. I had survived when they wanted me dead. And in surviving I had become something I never expected to be. Something I never imagined I could be. Dangerous. 3 months later, on a cold January morning, Jennifer pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and insurance fraud. 30 years to life in prison. No possibility of parole for 25 years. Pete pleaded guilty to accessory to murder, conspiracy, and fraud. 20 years with possible parole after 12. Both were already serving their sentences in separate prisons hundreds of miles apart. Their appeals had been swiftly denied. The life insurance money had been recovered and returned to Robert's estate. To me as his legal widow and rightful beneficiary. $750,000 I had never wanted. Money bought with my husband's life. With lies and betrayal and murder. I had put most of it in a trust fund for Bobby's future. For his education. For his life ahead. I kept enough to maintain the farm properly and ensure I wouldn't become a burden to Daniel in my old age. The real victory, though, hadn't been in the courtrooms or the legal proceedings. It had been in the quiet moments afterward, watching my family slowly, painfully begin to heal from the trauma, begin to recover and rebuild. I heard footsteps on the front porch, the familiar sound of boots stomping snow off before coming inside. The door opened and Bobby came in, his cheeks bright red from the cold, his eyes shining with excitement. "Grandma, you should see how deep the snow is by the barn. It's up to my knees. We could build a snow fort. A huge one." "We absolutely could," I agreed, smiling at him warmly. At 10 years old now, he was caught between childhood and growing up, struggling with everything that had happened. The devastating revelations about his mother, the divorce, the criminal trials, the media attention and scandal. It had nearly broken him completely, shattered him. But children were resilient, more resilient than adults often gave them credit for. They could heal from wounds that would destroy grown-ups. Daniel followed his son inside, carrying grocery bags. He had moved back to the farmhouse temporarily while he figured out his next steps, decided what to do with his life. The house where he had grown up had become his sanctuary again, a safe place to heal. And mine had become less lonely with them living here, less empty. "Bobby, go change out of those wet clothes before you catch pneumonia," Daniel said automatically. The parental command that made me smile. He was a good father, better than he knew, better than he gave himself credit for. After Bobby disappeared upstairs to change, Daniel set the groceries on the kitchen counter. He looked at me with an expression I had come to recognize over these months. The look that meant he needed to talk about something difficult. "Mom, I got a call from Jennifer's lawyer this morning," he said quietly. My hands stilled over the coffee I had been pouring into mugs. "What did she want now?" "Jennifer wants to see Bobby. She's claiming she has rights as his mother. That keeping him away from her is cruel and unusual punishment. Against the law." The audacity of it took my breath away, made me momentarily speechless. After everything, after the murder and the lies and the cold admission that Bobby had been nothing more than a tool to her, a means to an end, she wanted access to him. "What does Bobby want?" I asked, because that was what mattered most. That was what was truly important. "He says he never wants to see her again." "Not ever," Daniel replied. "He's angry and hurt and feels completely betrayed. He says she's not his real mother anymore. That real mothers don't do what she did." Daniel slumped into a chair, looking exhausted. "But what if he changes his mind later? When he's older? What if he resents me for keeping them apart? For making that choice for him?" I sat down across from him at the kitchen table. I took his hand in mine. "Daniel, you're his father. You make the decision that protects him now. Today. In this moment. If he changes his mind when he's older, when he's truly ready to face that relationship on his own terms, then you'll support him. You'll help him through it. But right now, he's a child who just learned his mother is a murderer. He needs stability and safety and time to heal. That's what you give him. That's your job as his father." "The lawyer says Jennifer is getting psychiatric help in prison," Daniel said. "That she's supposedly remorseful now. Supposedly changed." "How are you so calm about everything?" he asked. "Dad cheated on you for years. Lied to your face constantly. Doesn't that make you furious? Don't you want to scream?" "Oh, it does make me furious," I said, feeling the familiar burn of betrayal in my chest. The anger that never fully went away. I'm angry at Robert every single day. Angry at his weakness, his vanity, his willingness to destroy our family for an affair, for attention and flattery from a younger woman. But I'm also, I paused, searching for the right words to explain. I'm also free in a way. Free from the weight of a marriage built entirely on lies. Free from wondering why he seemed so distant in those final years. Why he had stopped really seeing me as a person. Now I know the truth. And knowing hurts terribly. But it's better than living in uncertainty and confusion. Do you miss him at all? Daniel asked softly. I thought carefully before answering, being honest with myself and with my son. I miss who I thought he was, I admitted. I miss the man I married 47 years ago. The partner I believed I had. The life I thought we built together. But that man may never have truly existed. Not fully. Not completely. The real Robert was someone who could be seduced and manipulated. Who could lie to my face for years. Who could betray the people who loved him most in the world. I looked at my son directly. So no, I don't miss him. I don't want him back. I mourn what I lost, what I thought I had. But I don't wish for it to return. I don't want to go back to living a lie. Daniel nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. I feel exactly the same way about Jennifer. The woman I married, if she ever really existed, I loved her deeply. But the woman who killed Dad, who used our son as leverage, who would have let you die to protect herself? I don't know that person. I never did. We sat together in comfortable silence. The kind that only comes from shared trauma and deep understanding. Outside my kitchen window, the snow continued to fall steadily, blanketing the farm in pure white, covering old scars with fresh possibility and new beginnings. Grandma! Dad! Bobby called from upstairs. Can we make hot chocolate and watch a movie together? Please. Absolutely, I called back, standing and moving to the stove. Come down here and help me make it, sweetie. As I heated milk and measured cocoa powder, Bobby came bounding down the stairs. He was chattering excitedly about school and his friends. About a video game he wanted for his birthday next month. About normal, innocent, childish things. I felt something I hadn't felt in years wash over me. Not happiness exactly. The wounds were still too fresh and raw for that. Peace. Genuine peace. The calm that comes from knowing the truth, no matter how painful. From surviving what should have been unsurvivable. From standing on solid ground after years of walking on lies and quicksand. That evening, after the movie and dinner, after Bobby had gone to bed, and Daniel had retreated to his old room to make phone calls to lawyers and therapists and the school counselor, I walked through the farmhouse alone. I touched the furniture Robert had built with his own hands. Looked at the photos still hanging on the walls. Pictures from happier times. Or at least times I had believed were happy. I had removed all the photos of Jennifer months ago. Taken them down and put them away. But I kept the ones with Bobby in them. He deserved to remember the good moments of his childhood, however complicated and painful they had become. In Robert's old study, I found the box I had been avoiding for weeks. His personal effects from the hospital. His wallet. His watch. His wedding ring that they had removed when he died. I opened it slowly, forcing myself to confront these last physical pieces of him. The wedding ring gleamed dully in the lamplight. Gold and simple and engraved with our wedding date. I had chosen not to wear my own ring anymore. Had locked it away in a drawer where I wouldn't have to see it. His deserved the same fate. The same burial. But underneath the ring I found something completely unexpected. Letter. Sealed in an envelope. Yellowed slightly with age. My name written on the front in Robert's real handwriting. The messy, hurried scrawl I had known for decades. Not the careful forgery Jennifer had used on documents. My hands trembled as I carefully opened it. My dearest Martha, it read. If you're reading these words, I'm gone. And I'm a coward for not having the courage to say this to your face while I was still alive. I've done terrible, unforgivable things. I've betrayed you in ways I can't fully explain or excuse. I started something I couldn't stop. Something that poisoned everything good in my life. In our life together. You deserved so much better than me. You deserved honesty and fidelity and respect and devotion. Instead, I gave you lies and took your trust completely for granted. I let vanity and weakness destroy the best thing I ever had in my life. Your love. I don't expect forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. But I want you to know something important. Whatever happened, whatever you discover about me after I'm gone, you were never the problem. Never. The problem was always me. My cowardice. My selfishness. My complete inability to appreciate what I had until it was far too late to fix. You are remarkable, Martha. Stronger than I ever was. Kinder than I ever deserved. Wiser than I gave you credit for being. I hope you find peace after I'm gone. I hope you find happiness and joy. You've earned it 1,000 times over through your patience and love. I'm sorry for everything. But mostly I'm sorry I wasn't the man you believed I was. The man you deserved to have. I'm sorry I failed you so completely. With love and deep regret, Robert. The letter blurred as tears filled my eyes. The first tears I had cried for Robert since learning the full truth. Not tears of grief for losing him, but tears for the terrible waste of it all. The wasted years. The wasted love. The wasted potential of what we might have been together if he had been honest. If he had been brave enough to face his problems instead of running to Jennifer's arms and her manipulation. He had known he was dying when he wrote this letter. It had been written weeks before his death. Hidden away where I would eventually find it someday. Had he suspected Jennifer was poisoning him? Had he known the truth? Or had he simply known his heart was failing and wanted to confess his sins before it was too late? I would never know the answer. And perhaps it didn't really matter anymore. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the box with his other belongings. It was closure of a sort. An acknowledgement from beyond the grave that I hadn't been crazy or paranoid. That I hadn't been the cold, neglectful wife Jennifer had painted me as to justify her actions. But it changed nothing about what had happened. Nothing about what still needed to happen going forward. I had a farm to run and maintain. A grandson to help raise and guide. A son to support through divorce and trauma and healing. I had a life to rebuild. Not from the ashes of betrayal, but from the solid foundation of truth I had fought so hard to uncover and establish. That night, as I locked up the farmhouse and checked on Bobby one last time, I watched him sleeping peacefully. His face was young and innocent in the soft moonlight streaming through the window. I made a decision right then. A promise to myself and to him. I would stay here in this house. On this farm. I would not let Jennifer and Pete drive me away from the home I had built over decades. From the land I had worked with my own hands. From the legacy I had earned through years of hard work. They had taken enough from me. From us. They wouldn't take this too. And I would use everything I had learned about deception and manipulation. About the darkness people could hide beneath pleasant surfaces. I would use all of it to make sure my family was never vulnerable like this again. Never exposed to such evil. I would teach Bobby to question what people told him. To verify information. To trust his instincts when something felt wrong. I would teach him that kindness shouldn't mean being naive. That trust should be earned carefully over time, not given freely. That family was defined by actions and love, not just blood relation. I would be the grandmother he needed desperately. Strong and protective and unshakable. The woman who had brought down murderers wouldn't let anything else harm her precious grandson. Not ever again. As I settled into bed that night, the farmhouse creaking and settling around me in the winter wind, I thought about age and wisdom. About survival and strength. About transformation. Jennifer had called me just an old woman as if it were an insult. As if age meant weakness and irrelevance. She had learned far too late that age meant something entirely different. Age meant experience and patience. Strategic thinking and the ability to see the long game while younger people chased immediate gratification. It meant knowing when to fight and when to wait. When to reveal your cards and when to play innocent. When to trust and when to verify absolutely everything. I was 73 years old. I had survived betrayal and murder plots. Attempts to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. I had brought down a killer using nothing but intelligence and persistence. The element of surprise. I was old, yes. But old meant dangerous in ways youth could never imagine or comprehend. And I would never, ever be underestimated again. By anyone. Outside my window, the snow continued to fall steadily. Covering the farm in pristine white. Promising renewal and rebirth. Spring would come eventually as it always did. New growth would push up through the frozen ground. Life would continue its eternal cycle. And I would be here through it all, watching over my family with fierce love, protecting what mattered most, living with truth rather than comfortable lies. The phone on my nightstand buzzed softly with an incoming text. From Daniel downstairs. "Thank you, Mom. For everything. For fighting for us. For being stronger than any of us knew you could be. I love you so much." I smiled, typing back quickly. "I love you too, sweetheart. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we start rebuilding our lives. Really rebuilding them properly. Tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that. Because that was what survivors did. What we had always done. We adapted to new circumstances. We overcame obstacles. We rebuilt from stronger foundations than before." The farmhouse settled into deep silence around me, peaceful and secure. Somewhere in the darkness, Robert's ghost might have lingered. But I no longer felt haunted by his memory or his betrayal. The truth had exorcised those demons completely and permanently. I was free. Wounded, yes. Changed forever, certainly. But free. And in that hard-won freedom, I found something unexpected and precious. Not happiness yet. The pain was still too fresh and raw. But the promise of happiness. The knowledge that I had survived the absolute worst. And emerged not broken, but forged into something harder and more resilient. Age hadn't weakened me as they had assumed. It had been my greatest weapon all along. My secret advantage. And if anyone else ever threatened my family, if any danger ever came near my grandson or my son, they would learn the same lesson Jennifer and Pete had learned in that cabin. Never underestimate a 73-year-old woman with nothing left to lose and absolutely everything to protect. I closed my eyes, finally at peace for the first time in months. The mystery was solved completely. The family was safe and healing. Justice had been served fully. And Martha Patterson, grandmother and widow and survivor, had won against impossible odds. Now tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were in my place? Faced with the same terrible choices? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching Granny's Voice. And don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. I promise it will surprise you just as much.